Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sue Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Women Living Well After 50. I'm Sue Carrick and it's so lovely to have you join me. Now, are you forever going on diets? Are you trying all the latest fads? There's intermittent fasting, there's keto, there's high protein, low carb, so many things that are out there. But what's really right for you? My guest today is Wendy Hodge from Wendy's Way to Health, and her advice is don't go on another diet. Change your regular diet instead and make healthy eating doable. So that would be great, wouldn't it, if we could all do that, eat healthy and without putting too much effort in. So let's go and join the conversation and learn how we can be eating healthier over 50 and enjoying an active lifestyle. Well, I'm delighted today to welcome my next guest in conversation, Wendy Hodge from Wendy's Way to Health. Hey, Wendy, how are you going?
Hi, Sue. Yeah, really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. You're a fellow Gold Coaster, so we're neighbours actually, and we've actually used to run together. We haven't as late, but we've known each other for a little while. Now, your philosophy is don't go on another diet, change your regular diet instead. So that's probably what we're going to be talking about today. Diet, there's so many diets around. As I said in the introduction, every day we've got something on social media about dieting, and it can really do your head in. So first of all, that's what we're sort of going to be touching on today, healthier food choices, lots of things we're going to be talking about with food. But I wanted to just start and see if we could go back a step and tell you or get you to tell us a little bit about why you started Wendy's Way to Health.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, when I actually started it, I was working for Jenny Craig. At the time, I had been previously, like years and years ago, I had worked in fitness. Like I've always been into health and fitness, in some form or other kind of thing. And I had worked in fitness as a fitness instructor and whatever years ago, and then taken a break and worked in hospitality for a bit. But when I came back to wanting to work within the realm of health and fitness, I ended up in on the nutrition side of things and working at Jenny Craig, which I loved. I loved working with the clients and working with them one-on-one coaching kind of thing. But what I found really frustrating was that even though the program works, well, I'm assuming, and unless they've changed it in recent years since I left, but the program, the way it's set up, works really, really well. The problem is that the clients in general, what I saw, the clients in general had trouble sticking with the strict part of the really strict plan and the food that they had to stick to in the beginning until they got to the point of where we started teaching them how to create their own healthy meals and cook for themselves and do it on their own without that strictly following that strict set plan. So, and that's what I absolutely loved the most, was when we got to that part of it. But unfortunately, the majority of them dropped off before we actually got to that point, which is really sad. But the ones that did make it to that point, I absolutely loved it. That was where I really, what I loved the most was helping them to, be independent and do it for themselves. So I thought, okay, I can do this for myself. I can just set up my own little, coaching business one-on-one, and I can teach them how to do it all and blah, blah, blah. But then I discovered that it's not easy to teach people to do things from scratch and to do it from the beginning. And it's just as hard, but in a different way, as having them follow a set set program. It took me ages. I was very stubborn to I kept thinking, no, this is what, because people were telling me what they wanted, kind of thing, and I was like, no, but this is what you need. And that's often the difficulty, is we try and give people more what they need, what we know they need, more than what starting off with what they want and then gently leading them towards that kind of thing. So I kind of learnt that the hard way, but I eventually, last year I started playing around. I've actually come full circle, which is kind of quite ironic, because when I first started, I was just like, no. Strict plans don't work, meal plans, no. And people would ask me, I was asked all the time whenever anyone started, or do you do plans, or do you have meal plans? I was, nope, no, don't do that, don't believe in that. And now I've just come full circle, and I do, but they're very, very different from them. They're not strict. They're very, very flexible. And that's what I spent most of last year working on, was coming up with recipe packs and meal plans that are just flexible and fit into people's lives, so they can do those and just do that if that's all they want to do, or from there they can move on to helping themselves, learning how to cook from scratch and doing things themselves if they want to, rather than just following a set recipe or a plan. So yeah. It's quite
okay.
quite funny.
Yeah, well, sometimes you've got to go full circle, haven't you, to come back to where you need to be. But the other thing is, you've touched on about meal plans and what people want and versus what they need. And we've all got good intentions of making healthier food choices and, cooking healthy meals and that sort of thing. But life gets in the way, as we know, and it just all becomes a bit too hard. So we reach for the fast and the convenient food, which isn't necessarily the best for us. So I wanted to talk about some ways that you feel that we can overcome this. People get busy, and as I said, we've got all the good intentions, but what can we do when we fall off track? So what are some ways we can overcome that?
Yep. Well, as much as, and I know often people don't like to hear the words planning and prep, or they don't like to hear meal prep, but planning is the biggest key to anything, to sticking with anything that you want to do, achieving any kind of a goal, as I know it's just planning is really, really important. And meal prep is a part of that as well, but it doesn't have to be. Unfortunately, a lot of people, I think, who really got into meal planning and teaching meal planning and meal prep and that kind of thing a few years ago, just tended to, I think, overcomplicate it and just make it really, really complicated and really, really difficult. And that same principle that I was going back to before of following, you have to do it this way, and you have to do, X number of steps, or it has to be, whatever. And so people just look at it and go, oh God, no, that's too much, or that's too hard, or it's too time consuming, or all that kind of thing. So I'm just trying to really just oversimplify everything and just keep it really, 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 really simple. And the most important thing, I think, that I've learned over the whole time that I've been doing this is that things have to fit into your life, your life as an individual. There's no point, saying, well, this works for this person, or, so I'm going to do that, because it may not necessarily work for you. It's that's same with planning, meal planning, preparation, any of the prep that you do, and especially with the different eating styles. And I mean, that's why I think there are so many different eating styles out there, and diets and programs and things, because different things work for different people. And that's why there's, there are just so many. You can't just say, well, this works, this is the latest fad, or this is the one thing, someone's finally found the one thing, that works. And it doesn't. Different things work for different people. You've got to keep it as well. There are some people who like things to be complicated, which again is fine if that's, that's how they are. But most of us just want it to be as simple as possible, as easy as possible, and
that's right,
not to take too much time. So you do have to plan. You absolutely do have to plan, and you do have to do some kind of prep. But how much, how little, whatever is entirely up to you.
Yeah, I've got a friend who, no, it does. And I was just going to say, I've got a friend that I've been working out with lately, and she's been wanting to lose a little bit of weight. And whilst we're not talking about dieting today, but it comes back, what she did, she sort of got off track like we all do. And what works for her is she actually does. She plans all the meals for the week. She writes it all down, what they're going to have and what ingredients she needs. And she puts that up on the fridge. So if the husband needs to go shopping, he can see it all up there. And, you know, she said that really has helped her because she doesn't have to think. She can go, okay, it's Monday lunchtime. This is what I've got, and this is what I've got. I've got the ingredients here. And I think that's important too. Having with the planning, you'll have the ingredients there, won't you? Rather than saying, oh, I'd really like to make a healthy salad, but I haven't got any of those ingredients and I can't rush out to the store now and get them. So I think planning plus when you do your shopping from the plan, having it all there for you.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And that is a really, really good point. Planning and doing a little bit of prep, doing it, you know, whenever you decide you're going to do it, you might do it once a week, you might do it a couple of times a week, again, whatever suits you. But that is what actually saves you time in the long run. It not just helps you stick to it and eventually achieve your goal, but it does save you time in the long run because you've set aside that little bit of time to do it. Saves you time through the week because you've got your plan. As you say, she's got that up on the fridge, so yeah, everyone knows, everyone can see what you need, what you're going to be having, what you're going to be eating, and what have you. And just really little simple things that you can do that are part of meal prep, you know, like batch cooking. So if you're cooking a casserole or if you're cooking something where you can cook double, you know, if you just always do that, or even if you're just roasting veggies in the oven, baking veggies in the oven, that kind of thing, if you can just do double, do extra, so that then you've got that on hand in the fridge or the freezer or whatever. Those really simple little things just all add up.
Yeah, as long as you don't eat the extra all in the one go. You know, like I try to do that sometimes, and then I think, oh, yeah, well, I'll have to think of plan B now because we've just eaten all of that. But anyway.
I often eat them for lunches, you know, like it's just great to have, if you've just got a little bit left over, you stick it in the fridge, have it for lunch the next day or the day after.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about food, during COVID, and just recently the floods here in southeast Queensland and New South Wales, we saw fresh produce, because we always say fresh is best and try to eat fresh food and fruit and veggies. And we saw that they either didn't have any stock or they were just at premium prices. You know, I think someone said they saw a cauliflower for $12. Well, you know, that's really... I don't think I want a cauliflower that badly. So, you know,
funny enough,
go on.
Jason he just came home from the shops because we've run out of cauli. So he was up at the shops and I said, oh, can you grab a couple of things, blah, blah, blah. Cauliflower was on the list. And when he got home, he said, I didn't bother because they were really tiny. They were like the size of my hand and they were about $10.
Yeah. So, you know, when those sort of things happen, and I know supply is affected when there's floods and so forth, what can we do to ensure that we're getting the right nutrients? Like, can you buy frozen vegetables? Are they okay for you? What about tinned? Absolutely. You know, because I know that we sort of say, don't buy, you know, try to keep the number of packaged foods that you buy to a minimum, but that's not necessarily meaning, you know, say frozen veggies or that sort of thing. So what's your take on that to overcome those times when the stock just isn't there?
Frozen veggies just have a really bad rap, basically a really bad reputation, and I think it may eventually change, who knows, but it can often be, frozen vegetables can often be better for us nutrient wise than fresh, because the supermarket, when you're buying your veggies from the supermarket, the fresh veggies are not necessarily always that fresh. They've been in cold storage for, you know, goodness knows how long. And you see it sometimes. You go in there and you look at it and you just kind of go, yeah, that doesn't look very fresh. But the frozen veg, you know, it's snap frozen on the spot, you know, like within a few hours of picking, and, you know, so they say, and all of that. So I guess it's just checking the country of origin. It's probably the main thing. with frozen fruit and veg, because there's our hygiene standards in Australia are a lot higher than some other countries, like China, for example. They don't have such high standards, and they use more chemicals and sprays and, you know, all of that kind of thing. And so it's looking for things that aren't, I don't know if it still happens, but there was a thing a while ago, a few years ago, where things were coming in looking like it was from New Zealand, frozen veg, and it was saying packaged in New Zealand, but it was actually coming from China.
Right.
So it's being aware of that kind of thing and really looking out for it. Just buying, if you don't mind buying, say, frozen, because I know frozen fruit can still be expensive if you're buying Australian. So it's looking at the countries that it's coming from. It's doing a bit of research and knowing what you're buying. But the frozen stuff, frozen fruit and veg can be just as good, if not better, sometimes than fresh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And same with canned and tinned, you know, it's just looking out for extra ingredients like the salt and the sugar content, you know, that kind of thing, and being aware of that. So
yeah, and that understanding labels and additives and all of that's another episode of a podcast in itself, because sometimes you need a degree in that, and, you know, reading a label these days. And I know there've been times my husband's come home and said, "Oh, I've got you this, it's got low fat or, you know, low sugar. So that might be okay." But when you read the label, you know, it's got all these flavors in it, or it's got, you know, salt or other things that, you know, so you do need to, I think you need to take responsibility a little bit of understanding what you're putting into your body. So
absolutely. You don't just rely on the claims on the packaging. I mean, especially things that say they're low sugar, as you say, low sugar, or if they say they don't have any sugar, all that means is that there's something else in there as a sweetener. There's an artificial sweetener or something else. So you just need to be aware and be on the lookout for it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we've heard the terms mindful eating and the 80-20 rule. And I sort of prescribe, I think, to the 80-20 rule. But I wondered if you could just explain to us a little bit more about what those terms mean and how we incorporate that into our lifestyle.
Yep. Well, my representation or my idea of the 80-20 rule is just about thinking about making progress and sticking with your plan and what you want to do, rather than trying to be perfect and get it, you know, exactly right kind of thing. So it goes back to, you know, the idea of not following something completely 100% strictly, you know, oh my God, I have to do this, and if I don't, then, you know, it's a disaster, and I may as well just throw in the towel and forget about it. It's getting rid of that kind of thinking and just realizing that, you know, in reality, we're not perfect, we can't do things perfectly. And the biggest thing that I think as well that people need to remember is that as soon as we put something off limits, like especially with food, you know, like if we turn around and say, as people do so many times when they go on a diet or they want to eat better or more healthily, they'll say, right, that's it, I'm cutting out all the junk food. I'm not going to eat chocolate anymore, or I'm not going to eat whatever for however long. And all that does is trigger your brain to want that particular food or want that particular thing. And it may not initially kick in, but eventually it will. And eventually, you know, like it just, the craving just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And your subconscious eventually kind of pushes you to give in to, and you can end up binging and, you know, doing all sorts of things that you just really don't want to. So a better way for most people, I mean, some people do have problems with, you know, food addiction, which is a serious issue in itself that, you know, they need proper professional help with. But we're talking about, you know, just most people in ordinary circumstances, you can get away with just, you know, having a little bit of something and being satisfied.
Yeah.
And that's partly where the mindful eating comes in as well. And with the 80-20 rule, I apply that to all of my meal plans. So every plan that goes into any of my recipe packs or into the recipe club, any of those plans are set to the 80-20 rule. So you've got ideas and examples in there in the planner of, you know, this is what you can eat, and you can follow that if you want to, and be eating healthy food every day, most days. Or you can play around with it as much as you like. So I've tried to make them really flexible as well. But the 20% is in the plan. It's written in there that you have a meal out or you have a takeaway meal once a week on like a Friday or a Saturday, or you swap it around to whatever day suits you, kind of thing. And it's in there and it's planned for. So then you're not feeling bad about it. You're not going, oh my God, I've got this strict plan to follow, but I've got to go out on Saturday night. Oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? It's already in there in your plan, and it's part of your plan. And it's been proven that if you can stick to being healthy most of the time, like around about 80% of the time, allow yourself treats 20% of the time, you'll make progress towards your goals.
Yes.
And you will be healthy. So it's just a sensible, reasonable thing for most people to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And mindful eating is probably more about what we talked about, just being aware of what we're eating, and maybe just slowing down when we eat to chew our food and savor it and sort of make what would you call it? Make it an event rather than eating your dinner in 10, 5 minutes or something. But really
sitting in front of the TV and just shoving things into your mouth, that's mindless eating. Where you just and you don't realize how much you've eaten, or as you say, if you're in a hurry and you're shoveling it down, and then there's no time for that signal to go between your stomach and your brain to let you know that you're full, and by the time that happens, you've overeaten. So it really is just taking that time, really slowing down, chewing your food, sitting at the table if you can, having your food properly on a plate with a knife and fork, and taking the time to chew and really, really thoroughly chew, even sometimes putting down your knife and fork, in between each, have a mouthful, put down your knife and fork, take your time to chew. Have a conversation if there are, other people around that you're eating with, sitting at the table and having a conversation. That slows you down as well. So you're not just shoveling the food in really quickly. And then one of the other biggest things is taking your time. So it takes you roughly, they say around 20 minutes ish is a good time to take, so that you do have time for the signal to go from the stomach to the brain to say, stop, I'm full. So stopping when you're full, and even if you've got a weight loss goal, stopping just before you're full. But that takes practice. It sounds quite simple, but it's actually not that easy necessarily to do in practice, and it does take time, but it's just depends how much you really want to do it as well. So it's not just having less on your plate. It's about listening to your body, listening to the cues, the hunger cues, and giving your body time to say, I'm getting full, and you can stop just before you get full at roughly around that 80 or 90% mark, and stopping. And the thing with that as well is you don't have to necessarily stop, and then if you're hungry, then be starving afterwards. You can stop and wait 10, 20 minutes, whatever. And if you are still hungry, then obviously you genuinely haven't had enough to eat. So eat some more. Eat a little bit more. But often if you stop, then you find, and you wait that 10, 20 minutes, you kind of like, I'm okay. I actually really don't need any more.
And it's a little bit like also when you're feeling hungry, if we haven't got the right things in the cupboard, we'll just grab for anything, and just I suppose it's also about not letting yourself get too hungry to the point where you'll just say, I'm absolutely starving, I've got to just grab whatever's there. So you're not even thinking about what you're putting in, you're just trying to
satisfy
your hunger. That's right.
Exactly. Again, that's where that little bit of planning can really help. I mean, I know it's difficult sometimes with the shifts and things that people work, shifts and hours and things, but trying to plan around it, and plan to have really filling meals. Say, I know nurses have, they have huge problems with the long shifts they work, not being able to take breaks. But, if you can have a big protein, fiber rich meal before you go to work, so that you are really, really full, and then have little, snacks you can keep in your pocket, that kind of thing, just to keep you going. And then again, when you get home, have a nutritious meal. Because that's the worst thing, is when you're absolutely starving hungry, and especially if you haven't got anything healthy on hand. That's when you, I was going to say, get into trouble, not necessarily get into trouble, but that's when you eat things that you don't necessarily want to eat, or things that you feel bad about afterwards.
Yes, that's right. Okay, now intermittent fasting. I don't necessarily want to talk too much about this because, again, it's, you sort of, a lot of these topics can be a whole episode in themselves. But, we hear a bit about the intermittent fasting, and I actually I was reading about it the other day, and then I noticed you made a comment about it too, that it's not necessarily as good for women as it is for men. But anyway, if you could just tell us that concept of what intermittent fasting is.
Yeah. I remember that comment. That was in a Facebook group somewhere, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right. Well, it's like the thing with intermittent fasting, really, in simplistic terms, is it's just like any other kind of eating style. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody, and it has become really, really popular, I guess, because it's kind of easy to do. It's a lot easier than a lot of the others. Or it's just about restricting your eating, your period of eating into a little window. And there are so many different variations on the windows that you can use with intermittent fasting as well. So I think that's what's really appealing about it. It is really flexible. It's not restricting food groups. It's just restricting your eating window, and that's it. But it just doesn't. From what I've learned, it doesn't work. Well, I know it doesn't work for everybody, and from what I've learned and the research that has been done into it, it actually works better for men than it does for women for some reason. That's just obviously our the way we're made up. Obviously, as we know, we're different. Women and men are different, and often for women, sometimes for women, they've found that the opposite happened when they were doing it for weight loss, and they were gaining weight rather than losing. In the studies that I've seen. So it's just like everything. It's a matter of, if you want to try it, and if it works, great, and you like it, stick with it. If it doesn't, then drop it and try something else.
Yes, because I was reading
how I look at it.
Yeah, the other day, and it can be like, say, you have your last meal at night, say at 7:00. Maybe, or 6:00, whatever, and then you don't have it. Is it 18 and 18:6, something like that? So you don't have food.
That's the thing. It depends. There's lots of different windows. You don't have to do that.
No, and there's another one where you have, say, a couple of days a week where you restrict your calorie intake or something like that. But of course, for me, I just want something that is going to keep me healthy, and especially if you're really active, you need something the food has to be nutritious to give you the energy you need. So I think also once you start cutting out food groups and all of that, that's when you can, unless you've got, say, an allergy to it or something, really you should be eating from all the food groups as well. Which brings me to your point. You have been talking about recipe packs and recipes. So why is having a recipe library helpful?
Just because it helps you be prepared, I guess. It gives you've got those resources there on hand that you can go to, rather than spending however long, spending hours trolling through, websites or blogs or whatever, looking for things, or even on Pinterest, as easy as it can be to jump on Pinterest. Often you don't necessarily find what you want. If you're looking for something new, you want something new to try or something different, you've got to, and there's the time of getting on there and then finding something, and then you click through, and then you've got to look at the recipe and check it all out and whatever. Where if you've got a library that you can go to, and that it's got healthy recipes in there, it meets the requirements that you're looking for, it just makes things easier and quicker, and easier and quicker.
And I suppose, and also I suppose there's a bit of variety there as well, so you don't get bored and in a rut of having the same. Well, it's Monday, so it must be such and such today, and Saturday's got to be.
It's Meatless Monday today, or it's Taco Tuesday, or
So
exactly that kind of thing.
Yeah. So in saying that,
and that's why I started the recipe club, the membership, for that exact reason.
Yes,
Yeah,
so
sorry,
I
Connie.
was just going to say, let's talk about that. So if you want to just tell us a little bit about, yeah, because this is something new that you've started, and it would be very beneficial, I think, to us all. So tell us all about it, and then perhaps what we need to do to get more information.
Yep. Well, as you know, I started with the recipe packs last year, and they were themed packs. So there was a 5-ingredient pack, and then the high protein pack, and that kind of thing, of packs of 50 recipes. And it just developed from there. And then I did the meal planning magic kit, which was a little bit more involved. And then from there, I was thinking, well, what else can I do to kind of just adding more variety and keep things more interesting, kind of thing, than just continuously adding just one recipe pack here and there and single, or different kinds and whatever. And I came up with the membership. So I'm calling it the Online Healthy Recipe Club. You get 20, and I'm just trying to keep it really, really simple as well, because I think we've just been, inundated with so much, and everyone's had so much to deal with that, you don't want anything that's really, really complicated and that you have to go. It's great to have, oh, look, I've got all this stuff, but that can be overwhelming as well, because you think you're never going to get to it all. So I'm keeping it really, really simple and straightforward. 20 new recipes, healthy recipes every month. And I just started it this month in March. And so there's been the first lot coming up on Friday, which is the 1st of April. We'll have the next lot. So there'll be 20 new recipes going out to the members that have already joined. There's the recipe library, which has got a little bit of a back catalogue, and that's going to grow as we go on. There's going to be more and more recipes in there. I'm going to be adding a few extras as well as the ones that are in the packs. You get each pack has not just the recipes, it has the plans, and what I was talking about before, the flexible plans. So you can follow it if you want to, and then there's a shopping list that goes with that. So if you want to follow it, you've got your shopping list already done, and you just go and do your shopping, come home, do a little prep, and you're done, organised, bang, for the week.
Yeah.
But if you want to play around with it, you can play around with it. There's blank templates in there that you can download, so you can play around as much as you like. You can just swap meals from one week to another if you want, or 1 month to another, or you can put your own things in there. There's room in there for snacks, and I've tried to make it as absolutely flexible as possible. And then there's the resource library, where there's a few little things, meal planning tips. There's blank planners and that kind of thing in there as well. So
can you give me some examples of what type of recipes you have in there?
Yeah.
Or what are some of your favourites then?
Good question.
Maybe the
My
ones that
favourites.
you tend to go back to time and again.
Yeah. Anytime there's anything like a tray bake, stir fry, those kind of things, because you're getting a really good hit of, you're getting a good mix, a good balance across all your nutrients and your food groups, lots of veggies, and they're quick and easy to do. And they're easy for washing up as well. Easy prep, easy to cook, easy washing up. So they're my favourites in the meals. And desserts, we don't tend to eat dessert as such, but it's more snacks.
Yeah.
So I tend to like muffins. They're probably one of my favourites, making my own muffins with, the alternative flours that I use. So, and I've just started getting into green banana flour, which is full of very high and resistant starch now, and it's actually good. You don't taste, as long as you don't use too much. There isn't any kind of taste. Often with a lot of things, it's kind of like, oh, that's might be good for you, but the flavour is really not good.
Yes. Oh, okay. Well, that sounds good. And you've also been working on a quiz that people can take. And what's the purpose of that?
Yep. It's just to try and, I guess, pique their interest and let them know, by going through the quiz, they can see where they're at, what level they're actually at with their own habits, and then at the end, I guess they can pique their interest of where they can make some changes, and to see that, to start to kind of realise that it's not difficult, or it's not as difficult as they might think, or as it might seem. And so they can, once they go through the quiz, they get a few tips at the end. Then they get to join join my email list, become a subscriber to the Wendy's Way community, and get there's a little meal planning kit with some simple tips and simple ideas, and just a few little recipes to get them started. and then from there, just to lead them through that it's not, it doesn't have to be as hard or as complicated as they might think it is.
Yeah, and I was just thinking too, another point is if you've got families or some of the listeners may still have family at home living with them, or they've got grandchildren that come to stay or whatever, and it's trying to, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that, or if some people find if they're on an eating plan, it's something that's just for them. Are these recipes able to be for the whole family or for your partner, rather than just you make for you and then you've got to make for everybody else as well, something different?
Yeah, no. They're just ordinary, everyday, healthy meals, basically, that everyone can eat, that everyone will like to eat, that everyone enjoys. Yeah. So, like I said, things like tray bakes, you've got, a salmon and vegetable tray bake with some rice or, something like that. It's not anything that's a set specific thing that, that only the person and it's usually mum, that only mum will be eating, and then she's got to do something extra for the rest of the family. It's not that at all.
Yeah, no, because that would certainly not be easy then, because you'd probably go, oh, just give it away, it's just all too hard. So we're coming towards the end of our conversation today, and it's been really good just sort of putting the focus back on thinking about what we do with our meal planning and our preparation, and that's really the key, the planning, the prep, and also we've talked about mindful eating and your program. So we've got a bit of an offer for our guests, our listeners today, if you wanted to go through that for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we do. So the online healthy recipe club, I can get it out. We could do a half price deal for the first month. So because from the 1st of April, it's going to be $19.95 a month. So if they want to join at $9.95 a month and, give it a trial and see what they think, see if they like it, check it all out, try out the recipes, that kind of thing, they can do that for half price. I'll work out a discount code that we can put, wherever you want to put it. And what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. And I guess the important point is that, you can jump in, have a look, check it all out. There's no contracts. There's no locking contracts, nothing that they have to stick to. So if you join and for whatever reason you don't like it, you don't want to renew, you cancel, and that's it. Simple as that.
Yeah. And we'll also be putting all the links to your website and, other links that you have in the show notes so that people can, get in touch with you and find out a bit more about healthy eating. So before we wrap up today, do you think we've covered it all, or is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
Yeah, no. That's I think we've definitely covered it all.
I think we have. So it's all about being prepared, planning, and having a recipe that's going to give us a bit of variety with our food to make it eating healthy, enjoyable. It doesn't have to be a dry lettuce leaf and a carrot. It can be a lot more than that. And if you are busy and you just can't think about what to make, these recipe packs are a really great idea. So I'd love to thank you for joining me today, Wendy. It's been great to chat as always.
It has been. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all.
Lovely.
And to you, the listeners, great to have you join us for this episode. Don't go on another diet, change your regular diet instead. And if you've enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend, because I know that they would get benefit from it as well, from the information Wendy shared today. I'll be back with another guest in the next episode. But in the meantime, remember to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.